Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about nutrition and some of the basics about nutrition and some key concepts that I hope will really be helpful to you as you embark on this whole weight loss journey thing. I know for me, I'm really good at that whole exercise thing and it comes really easily to me. But the nutrition thing, well, there's so much information out there and there's so many people with different opinions and different types of experts. For me, it can all be super confusing, especially when you're just starting out. It can be complicated. What do I eat? How much do I eat? When should I eat? There's just so much stuff out there, and it's hard to understand everything. But for me, when I try to break it down and keep things simple, the confusion starts to go away a little bit. So as I keep learning, I want to help you guys learn too. I keep saying we're all in this together, and it's not because um, it's a one-liner that I think is fun to say, but because I think that we really all are. I learned so much from others, and I feel like this is just a way that I can help pay it forward a little bit to just relay some of the information that I have, and that's been helpful to me in the past. So with that, let's move on. Okay, so I do have a bit of an agenda. This entire webinar shouldn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. But there's three key concepts that I'd like to review with you today. The first one is talking about counting calories, and is it really necessary to do so? We're also going to work through what your basic metabolic rate is, and that's also known as your BMR for short. And then once we've got that all figured, we are going to talk about how many calories we should be eating to lose weight or to maintain our weight. And then we'll wrap it up with a bit of a summary. And you guys can email me with any questions or comments that you have about this mini presentation when we're all done. So, counting calories, is it really necessary? Well, for one, for me it is actually really necessary, especially in the beginning. I know that no one likes to count calories. I totally get that. But when you're first trying to lose weight and eat better, I think it's really necessary to do it. We tend to underestimate what we're actually eating. I know I do it all the time. I'll have a cheeseburger and I'll assume that it's only 200 calories. And that's just simply not the case. And if that's what you're doing with all of the food that you're eating, well, it can make it difficult to lose weight in the long run. So if you don't know how many calories on average you're actually eating in a day, it's going to be also difficult to redesign your eating habits, which is ultimately what's going to get you that weight loss that you're looking for, is redesigning and rethinking the way that you're doing things. So when you're first starting out, it's important to track your food intake in a journal or a mobile app just to get a better idea of how much you're actually eating in a day. And when I say mobile app, everybody has a smartphone. There are a ton of different apps that you can download from the Apple Store or wherever that do a really good job of helping you calculate the calories in the food that you're eating and also just track the food that you're eating. MyFitnessPal is one of those that is really good. I'm sure you've heard of that. MyFitnessPal, if you just Google it, it will come up, and it's a great tool to use as well. So then when you have that list kind of outlined, it's going to be easy for you to determine how many calories you're actually eating. You're going to see it in front of you. You're going to see, this is what I ate for lunch, this is what I ate for dinner, and I roughly calculated it, knowing exactly how many calories I'm actually eating in that day. So when you're doing this, though, it's really important to read the labels. That is so important. I can't stress that enough. And once you're reading those labels, it's very important to pay attention to the serving size. Here's a bit of an example. You can see that this entire package of rice, or whatever that it was, has 250 grams. And then you can see that they have given you the calorie content for only 90 grams. So that means there's more than one serving in this actual mini bag of rice. So when you're counting calories, it's really important to take that into consideration. So if you had 2 servings, you wouldn't only be eating 150 calories, you'd be eating 300 calories. So I think it's just really important to be mindful of that when you're reading labels and when you're trying to track your food, just so you get a better sense of what exactly it is that you're eating and what you're putting into your bodies. Because then then once you actually know how much you're eating, it's going to be a lot easier for you to decide what you should cut back on. So, I talked a little bit about this in the introduction, but what is your basic metabolic rate? What is your BMR? And why is this so important? Well, we've just spent a little bit of time figuring out how to actually count the calories that we're eating. So we know what we're eating, but now we have to figure out what we're burning. It's really the key to all this, and it's a really good starting off point to figure out and understand what the basic metabolic rate means and what it means to you. I want to start this off with a bit of a question. If I lied in bed all day long for 24 hours, how many calories would I need to survive? So that means I wouldn't move, I would just lie there, basically breathing and doing absolutely nothing else. So that's a bit of a loaded question, but the answer is that you'd have to figure out what your basic metabolic rate is. That's what that means. Your BMR is is the amount of energy or calories that you need for your heart to work, for your brain to work, for your kidneys to work, and for all those other organs in your body to operate and keep us living. So the BMR is represented in the form of calories. And it's also based on weight and your height and your age and your gender. So it would be different for everyone. So my BMR is going to be different than your BMR. But with that said, if you Google BMR calculator on the internet, you will get a huge list of different BMR calculators that are out there. Because there's so many variables and everybody inputs different things, I would absolutely recommend these calculators. They all work well, and they basically all do the same thing. And what it'll do is spit out a number in the form of calories again, so then you know how many calories you would be burning every day if you weren't doing any activity. But it's going to be a lot easier for you guys to understand this if we use a bit of an example. So when I do that calculation and I use that calculator, my BMR is 1,500 calories. So what that means is that I need at least 1,500 calories to survive and basically do nothing all day long. So if I was lying in bed all day doing nothing, at minimum, I would need 1,500 calories to survive. But do I lie in bed all day? No, obviously not, right? And no one else really does either. So I know for sure that I'm burning more than just 1,500 calories per day. And how are you burning all those other calories? Well, for one, you're walking to your car to work. For me, I'm, running around the office, doing other things. I carry my daughter around. She's 4, and she's getting to be a little on the heavier side to be carried around like that. And then there's also working out. There's running, there's CrossFit, there's all types of different exercises, and all of those activities burn calories. In addition to those 1,500 calories that you need just to live and to breathe and operate and function. So, now that we know that we're burning a lot of calories throughout the day, how can we figure out what that number looks like? Well, it can be a bit of a difficult thing to try to calculate it exactly. That's why I like to work on averages. Because every activity that we're doing burns different amount of calories, and they vary based on your height and your weight and your intensity. So getting this number 100% right, well, it's never going to happen. So it's really important to use averages and be consistent with what you're doing. Those are always words that I'm going to say is be consistent, do the same kind of things, and you'll start to see some results. But on the days specifically that I'm exercising, in addition to those 1,500 calories that I'm burning just surviving, if I'm doing a lot of exercise throughout the day, along with running around, chasing the kids, and so on and so forth, I'm probably burning an additional 500 to 800 calories. And then if I consider the days that I'm not exercising, I'm probably only burning an additional 500 calories. So, 1,500 calories for my BMR, plus the additional 500 to 800 calories with exercise, or another 500 calories without that exercise. So what does that mean at the end of the day? Well, on the days that I'm exercise, I'm burning around 2,300 calories per day on average. So 1,500 calories with my BMR, plus an additional 800 for the workouts and just living life. So 2,300 calories burned per day on average. So if I don't want to gain weight and I just want to maintain, how many calories do you think we should be eating based on this calculation and based on the fact that I'm working out and just living life? Yes, you're right. 2,300 calories. The calories that I'm eating should equal the calories that I'm burning. Calories in, 2,300. Calories out, 2,300. And then on the days that I'm not exercising, I'm probably burning closer to 2,000 calories per day. So 1,500 plus 500. And then again, if I don't want to gain weight and I just want to maintain, how many calories should I be eating? And that looks again the same as the other example, 2,000 calories. So what if I actually want to lose some weight? Well, the first thing to consider is that you actually need to be in a calorie deficit. So I'll be in a calorie deficit if I'm eating less calories than I'm actually burning. And again, I go back to those calories in versus calories out. So let's go back to that example that I was talking about in the previous slide. If on average I'm burning about 2,300 calories a day with exercise, a good place for me to start would be to subtract about 500 calories from my daily food intake. So that would mean 2,300 calories minus 500. So what I should be consuming at this point is about 1,800 calories a day. What that looks like from a week perspective is that I'd be cutting about 3,500 calories per week. And what that means from a poundage or a weight perspective, 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of fat. So if I'm cutting out 3,500 calories a week, essentially I'd be cutting out 1 pound of fat per week. And honestly, that's a really good place to start, especially when you're just starting out with this and you're just figuring out how to decide what to eat and how much to eat and so on and so forth. You don't want to deprive yourself to the point where you don't have any energy or anything like that. It's really important to do this safely. And just as we wrap this up, because I'm getting to a close here, what we've just talked about, the goal of it is to offer you some perspective, is to give you a better sense of, I'm eating this. Am I really going to be burning that much off today? Maybe I should cut back. Maybe I should only have half a portion because I know I'm not going to have the opportunity to exercise today. It's just to give you a sense of what you're doing and how you are eating, and if you're doing it in a healthy way, and if it's something that can be conducive to weight loss. And I'll say this again, calorie counting is never perfect. Don't fall into that trap of trying to count every exact calorie that's going into your mouth, because it's impossible, and it essentially will just drive you crazy. Unless you work in a science lab and you're going to weigh out every piece of food that you put in your mouth, and and you're a scientist and you can scientifically derive the calorie content. Otherwise, when you look at a package, it's a pretty good guess is what they do. They figure out the average calorie content in packages and they slap it on the label, and that just gives us a better sense of an idea holistically of what we're actually eating. And like I said again, the goal is to be aware of what you're eating on average throughout the day. So on average, this is what I eat. On average, my activity level is this. If I want to cut back a little bit, I'll probably be successful. If I want to maintain, maybe I should be eating a little bit more. So it's just a good gauge as to what's going on. And again, if you're consistently exercising and you're eating less calories than you're burning, you're going to see some weight loss. That's how I've experienced it. So I know there's so many things out there and it can be complicated, but at the end of the day, it really is about calories in, calories out, exercising consistently, and eating the right foods at the right times. So with that, that is the presentation that I had for you. We'll end it off with a bit of a summary. So when you're starting out, don't forget, track your food intake for a few days. It'll be helpful. And then figure out your BMR. It's going to give you a baseline. You'll have a good sense of what your body needs to fuel itself and what you need to feed it so that it has energy and can do all the activities that you want to do. But don't eat below 1,200 calories. That's the minimum amount that you need to survive and live. Because energy is calories. So if you want energy, you need to eat calories. You have to make sure that you eat, and you don't want to be starving yourself, because that will get you nowhere in the end. And exercise should be fun. try new things, try new recipes, read some books, and more importantly, do your own research. There are so many good tools out there, and there's so much information, and there's so many websites, and there's so many people with experience with this that are looking to give advice and help. Um, the information is there at our fingertips, so it's important to try to really grasp your own journey and find the research that you find helpful and find things that work for you. Um, So with that, I will leave you. So please feel free to go to carlysabourin.com to find out how you can email me a question, or find my Facebook page if you have any questions specifically surrounding this mini webinar here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear any comments or questions that you might have. Thanks. I hope you have a great day.